The high-frequency emergency alarms inside Sector 7's deep space drydock didn't just sound. They shattered the thick reinforced viewport glass along the primary observation gallery in a blinding cascade of violent amber strobe lights. Above the central orbital cradle, the heavy automated station warnings screamed in a dual-frequency pulse that sent a wave of pure, primal panic through the 300 elite alien engineers and naval observers seated in the high gallery. Critical engine ignition hazard. Dock Bay 4. Unqualified structural modification detected. Immediate ejection recommended. Alien technicians scrambled over one another in a chaotic flurry of claws, tentacles, and multi-jointed limbs. Two blue-skinned Vraxian naval architects jammed their optical stalks into their protective helmets, shrieking as they hit the sealed emergency exit controls. An 8-foot-tall Gorgon admiral, clad in 300 pounds of biocalcified plate armor, drew his sidearm with trembling hands and backed straight against the reinforced bulkhead. In the center of the orbital cradle below lay the broken hull of the Vanguard 9, a majestic 2,000-meter-long battlecruiser belonging to the High Council. 3 solar cycles ago, during a surprise ambush by rogue pirate dreadnoughts on the rim, its central drive core had been sheared in half by high-density plasma fire. Its primary energy shields were vaporized, its structural frame was warped beyond recognition, and its hyperdrive housing was reduced to slag. The Council's master shipwrights had officially written the vessel off as scrap metal, calculating that a full structural repair would require 40 years of precision laser welding, 3 billion credits of refined hyperalloys, and a specialized orbital shipyard. Then, Earth's representative stepped forward. Humanity, having joined the Galactic Accord only 6 months prior, had offered to repair the damaged flagship for free as a gesture of interspecies goodwill. They asked for only 3 things: 48 hours of uninterrupted dock access, permission to bring their own manual repair crews, and complete privacy inside Dock Bay 4. High Commander Valen, a 9-foot-tall Krellian warlord whose multi-jointed biochitin armor was polished to a mirror shine, stood at the viewport of the observation gallery, his 4 primary eyes dilated in absolute, unadulterated horror. The 48-hour timer on the master dock wall had just expired. Midnight. Inside the dock, the heavy safety curtains dropped away, exposing the rebuilt starship to the sterile vacuum of space and the glare of the local sun. The 300 alien engineers pressed their faces against the reinforced viewport glass. Their breath fogged the viewports as a collective, high-pitched gasp rippled through the gallery. The Vanguard 9 was no longer a sleek, polished, silver symbol of galactic diplomacy. Humanity hadn't replaced the delicate, hand-carved silver hull plates. They hadn't installed the standard, low-output Imperial energy conduits. They hadn't even painted over the jagged, blackened scars of the plasma hits. Instead, the human repair crew, led by a 52-year-old lead mechanic named Mac who wore grease-stained denim overalls and chewed on an unlit cigar, had wrapped the 2,000-meter warship in a monstrous, brutal exoskeleton of solid structural steel, heavy industrial girders, and massive, thick-plated armor slabs salvaged from discarded mining rigs. Where the broken hyperdrive used to sit, the humans had literally cut a massive hole through the rear hull with industrial plasma torches and bolted on 3 raw, unshielded commercial-grade freighter engines using heavy, 6-inch steel rivets. "By the ancestors!" the Vraxian chief architect shrieked, his optical stalks twitching in pure horror. "What have the Deathworlders done? They have ruined a masterpiece of Imperial engineering. They have bolted raw mining iron directly onto a royal flagship. Look at the welds. They are thick, uneven, and unpolished." High Commander Valen slammed a heavy claw onto the console, his mandibles vibrating with cold, aristocratic rage. "Where is the human lead mechanic? Bring him to the observation gallery immediately. This is an insult to the Imperial fleet." The heavy steel doors of the observation gallery hissed open. Mac walked in. He was holding a thermal mug of steaming, jet-black coffee in his left hand and a greasy steel wrench in his right. He was wiping carbon soot off his forehead with a filthy rag, completely unfazed by the 30 armed alien guards standing around the room. "You called Commander?" Mac asked, his voice raspy, gravelly, and flat, cutting through the high-frequency hum of the room's environmental air scrubbers. Valen pointed a trembling, four-clawed gauntlet toward the monstrosity resting in the orbital cradle. "You dare call this a repair?" Valen roared, his voice booming off the steel walls. "You were tasked with restoring our flagship to its original structural specifications. Instead, you have stripped its elegant aesthetic, doubled its dry weight with crude iron slabs, and attached commercial freighter thrusters to a military frame. You have rendered this vessel a slow, heavy, floating graveyard." Mac didn't jump. He didn't drop his coffee. He took a slow, deliberate sip of the dark liquid, wiped his lip with the back of his thumb, and walked straight over to the viewport wall. "Your original specs were garbage, Commander," Mac said softly. The entire gallery fell dead silent. Two avian diplomats sitting 3 rows back let out soft, anxious squawks, while the Gorgon admiral backed up another step. "What did you say, human?" Valen sneered, his lower claws twitching near his personal sidearm. "I said your original specs were garbage," Mac repeated, leaning his shoulder against the glass. "You built a 2,000-meter ship out of thin, polished silver alloy because you wanted it to look pretty at parades. The first time a pirate hit you with a high-density plasma bolt, your frame folded like a paper napkin because your delicate internal energy lines couldn't absorb kinetic shock." Mac turned his head, looking straight into Valen's 4 glaring ocular sensors. "We don't build ships for parades on Earth," Mac continued, his pale blue eyes locking onto the Krellian warlord. "When a human ship gets hit, we expect the armor to take the beating, not the crew. We wrapped your hull in 6-inch cold-rolled steel plates with a 2-inch air gap in between. That plasma weapon that sheared your engine in half last month? If it hits that new nose cone today, it won't even melt the primary paint layer." "And the engines?" the Vraxian architect interjected, pointing a claw at the 3 massive freighter thrusters sticking out of the stern like ugly iron barrels. "You have compromised the vessel's sublight acceleration curve. It is mathematically impossible for those commercial engines to match Imperial naval speeds." Mac let out a low, dry chuckle that sounded like grinding gears. "Those aren't standard commercial engines, pal," Mac said. "We stripped the safety governors off the primary fuel injectors, bypassed the automated heat limiters, and linked all 3 drives directly to a multi-stage solid-fuel booster rig." He tapped a sequence into the master override terminal on the railing. "In your Imperial fleet, you run your engines at 30% capacity so the housing doesn't get scratched," Mac explained, pointing to the live diagnostic screen flashing green on the console. "In our fleet, if we need speed, we feed the drives raw liquid hydrogen and let them scream. You wanted your ship back? She's ready. And she's got 4 times the kinetic output she had when she left the factory." Before Valen could respond, the orbital station's long-range bioradar flared bright, blinding crimson. "Warning, red alert. Unidentified fleet emerging from hyperspace. 8 heavy pirate dreadnoughts approaching Dock Bay 4. The sirens shrieked again. Sirens echoed across the station as the same pirate fleet that had crippled the Vanguard 9 3 cycles ago dropped out of warp, their plasma turrets already charging to destroy the orbital dock and finish off the flagship once and for all. "Station shields to maximum," Valen screamed through the intercom. "Evacuate the cradle. We cannot hold off 8 dreadnoughts." "Hold your horses, Commander," Mac said calmly, setting his coffee mug down on the console. "Nobody's evacuating anything." Mac hit the master launch button. Down in Dock Bay 4, the rebuilt Vanguard 9 didn't gracefully glide out of its cradle like an Imperial warship. With a deafening, floor-shattering boom that shook the entire 3-mile orbital station, all 3 modified freighter thrusters erupted in a blinding, terrifying roar of superheated blue flame. White-hot exhaust gases washed over the steel cradle, melting the safety clamps into liquid iron in a fraction of a second. The 2,000-meter ironclad monster shot out of the dock like a kinetic mass-driver slug. The lead pirate dreadnought, expecting a fragile, damaged cruiser, opened fire with its primary high-density plasma cannon. A massive beam of superheated orange plasma struck the Vanguard 9 squarely on its newly installed front steel nose cone. In the observation gallery, the alien architects closed their eyes, expecting total annihilation. Thwack-crack. The orange plasma beam hit the 6-inch cold-rolled steel plate, scorched the outer layer of black soot, and dissipated into useless blue sparks against the 2-inch air gap. The heavy iron hull didn't crack. The frame didn't warp. The ship didn't even slow down. Inside the pirate fleet's command link, panic erupted. Target hit. 0 structural damage. They are accelerating toward us. They are not turning. They are not turning. The rebuilt Vanguard 9 didn't bother charging its primary laser cannons. Driven by 3 unshielded freighter engines running at 200% fuel capacity, the 70,000-ton iron behemoth slammed directly into the side of the lead pirate dreadnought at sublight speeds. Boom crunch. The pirate ship's sleek, silver armor shattered like cheap glass under the raw, unyielding kinetic force of human steel. The Vanguard 9 plowed straight through the center of the enemy vessel, tearing it into 2 burning halves, and continued accelerating toward the remaining 7 dreadnoughts without losing a single knot of forward momentum. In 30 seconds flat, the remaining 7 pirate ships fired their emergency retrothrusters, executed an illegal full-fleet retreat, and jumped into hyperspace at maximum speed, fleeing the system in absolute, unadulterated terror from a warship that didn't even need guns to erase a fleet. A dead, suffocating silence fell over the observation gallery. 300 alien commanders, shipwrights, and diplomats stood frozen at the viewports, staring out at the burning wreck of the pirate flagship and the massive, iron-sheathed monster drifting peacefully in the void, its 3 heavy engines glowing like angry red suns in the dark. High Commander Valen slowly turned his head, his 4 ocular sensors wide, his mandibles hanging open in complete, reverent shock. He looked at the 52-year-old human mechanic who was calmly picking up his coffee mug from the console. You turned our flagship into a battering ram," Valen rasped, his synthesized voice trembling by a fraction of a millimeter. Mac took a small sip of his coffee, smiled faintly, and patted the Krellian warlord on his armored shoulder. "Galactic empires spend trillions of credits making ships that look nice in a museum," Mac said softly, walking toward the exit doors. "Humanity builds ships that make sure the other guy doesn't get to see tomorrow. The bill's on the house, Commander. Next time you break a ship, just bring us some extra iron." The heavy steel doors hissed shut behind him, leaving 300 elite alien leaders sitting in complete, terrifying silence, staring out at the single most terrifying piece of human engineering the galaxy had ever witnessed.